Hello, welcome to my presentation. And in this presentation, we're going to talk about wavelet transform for data reduction. Big thanks to Krishna for this poster right here. I really like it and I'm choosing to put it in my presentation. So before we get into data reduction using wavelet transform, it's a good idea to know about what is data and why we need data reduction at all. So data is everywhere, from supermarket to universities or day to day, but not all data is equally useful because when you have a lot of data like big data sets, it creates a problem that is computational problems, storage challenges. There consists of a lot of noises, so that's why we reduce data. So you might have heard the concept of data pre-processing that includes data cleaning, data transformation, which could be handling missing values and normalizing the distribution, and where data reduction is about compressing and shrinking the data while still preserving its essential patterns. Here are some images. Here are some images about lossy and lossless. As the name implies, lossless is where we don't lose any of the data, whereas lossy we discard some of the data. It depends upon the choice and the threshold that we're trying to uh, decide how much data to keep and how much to remove. We basically try to keep the important meaning so that the whole data stays meaningful. So here are the images that shows you the comparison between them. So before we get lost of the track, why are we talking about Fourier transform? It's just because it's a classic tool that we should know. It breaks the signals into the sine and cosine wave. So once it breaks it down, you get to know what the frequencies are, but not when they happened or where they happen. Which are fine for like stationary signals, but when it comes to real data, where you would need those time series or time details, we would need something better, and that's where, spoiler alert, steps in wavelet transform. So before we get confused over too many pictures and text, wavelet literally means small waves. So it's like a zoom lens for data, where wavelet splits the data into lower frequency structure, that is the bigger pictures, and the higher frequency details, which are the details. So unlike Fourier, wavelet preserves time and location information. So we know not only what is happening, but also um, when and where it's happening. So wavelet introduced by J. Mortel are used to characterize a complex pattern, such as a series of simple pattern and coefficient that, when multiplied and summed, it reproduces the original pattern. This picture will help us navigate what we just talked about. So you have an original signals that has 16 dots. So once we do the approximation part that preserves 8 points and still preserves some coefficient that handles the detail space. So we're just changing the point of view, but not the actual information. So we can traverse back without losing any information. We could also look into this image. So you could see this big image in the middle is a correlation matrix. It measures how the things are. In practice, we could reconstruct the image, the pixels, and most of its relevant references by just keeping it most of the relevant references instead of the whole raw pixels data. So that is the core of data reduction. And you can see this beautiful animation by Talevi that shows that each time the slit passes through the waves, it captures the different frequencies, the low and the high. So we're talking about data reduction using wavelet transform in terms of image. You could see the image using two-dimensional discrete wavelet transform. You could see that it decomposes the image into sub-bands. So that is LL, LH, HL, and HF, where LL is the main image, the approximation, whereas the rest of the contains edges and details. So the reason why wavelet transform is better than Fourier transform is because DDT has a better ability to localize time and frequency. So that makes the compression much easier. So this is just a visual representation of what we just talked about. So the approximation part the LL handles, and the rest that handles the details, the textures, and the edges. So in this figure, we could see the wavelet decomposition having in each row and wavelet, where the gray part are the wavelet coefficients. So that helps us to reconstruct the original data, but we also gain the flexibility to keep the only important path. So one of the famous application in image compression is JPEG 2000. So it uses wavelet. So it because it uses wavelet, it is very much efficient when it compresses the images. So um, that also allows like progressive loading. So that's why when we see an image that loads online, when then you see the blurry version, and then it sharpens up as the more data arrives. So that is the beauty of wavelet and how it works. You can see in the picture itself the comparison between JPEG, which doesn't use wavelet, and JPEG 2000 that uses the wavelet. You can see how it retains most of the textures and the data, while JPEG doesn't. So to break down this big image that we have right here, so on the left we just have the a big data cube, which is tons of data, the raw data. We don't know what to do with it. But instead we choose, so we have is a three dimension x, y, z. It could be height, length, and depth. So first you go along x direction and split into the cores and detail, and alongside y and z. And then after each process of decomposition, level 1 and level 2, you now have layered and compressed representation. So wavelets are not only related to images, they are used for many other applications, for denoising signals in music or radios, and even in medical science, where it compresses CT or MRI scans without losing the critical diagnostic details. So that allows wavelet to storing 3D scans at high quality, but also lower size that reduces hospital storage cost and also the cost of uh, transmission. And it could also be used in video compression, because a video is simply a sequence of 2D images over time. So that's where we see wavelet doing its thing. So wavelet can compress both the image details and the changes over the time. So the idea is always simple. You keep what matters and you discard what doesn't matter to you. Here is a hands-on program that I did. Huge shout out to Against Dave, his YouTube channel. He has gone through it. So just make it easy for you, I've used my image right here, the original image. Uh, and we have imported a bunch of libraries and try to plot it. So you can see as we apply the 2D discrete wavelet transform to break down the images into the detail levels, the 4 layers, you convert the coefficient into a single array 0.1, 0.5, 0.01, and you, as as you go lower layers, you set the smaller coefficient to 0, it removes the less important information and it compresses the image. So the key takeaway from this presentation is just to summarize, wavelet acts like a zoom lens. It led us to capture both the big picture and also the minute detail. So, and the data reduction comes from keeping only the important coefficients. And this method has practical impacts in images and signals and other applications that we talked about. And we have, if we have any questions, that would be appreciated. But yeah, thank you so much. And you just saw what I did. I removed the Y and O, but still says thank you.